Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm your host Ayush and today we have a very special guest with us, Aditya. He recently graduated from IIT Kanpur and have studied stats and data sciences. Hi Aditya and thanks for taking out time.
No worries, no worries. Hello. Pleasure to be part of this project.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Before starting, I just wanted to give a brief about why we are here, what we are doing. So, I recently started this initiative uh, focusing on lakhs of Indian students and parents who take multiple career choices every year. And many a time, because of lack of information, they end up regretting it later. So, this is a small contribution towards filling that knowledge gap. As we all know, IIT counseling has started, and similarly here as well, people fill up their preferences solely based upon opening and closing rank. And once they get into IITs, they figure out what they actually want to do. So, as part of this series, we are speaking with multiple students to know about their course and get some guidance on how new aspirants should end up filling their preferences. So, let's start. I think let's begin with a short round of introductions. So, I am Ayush. I have been a management consultant for 8 years, most recently with Bain and Company. I have done my MBA from IIM Lucknow and have done engineering from Delhi University. And I have been passionate about this space as well as about startups and AI and stuff. Over to you, Aditya.
Okay, I'm Aditya. I'm from Bangalore. I recently completed my undergraduate in statistics and data science from IIT Kanpur. I have spent like time doing various things. I spent a lot of time researching in bioinformatics in like cancer research. I interned in Bain in my third year summer as an ACI, and now I'm going to pursue a master's in statistics from IIT JEE, which is one of the premier
Congratulations.
institutes. Okay. Thank you.
And I think opportunity to settle and have fun in one of the heavens on earth.
Yes.
Uh, Hope you're excited about it.
Yeah, definitely. Just the moment my pockets start feeling lighter, I will probably be a little more excited.
That's also true. It's one of the most expensive countries in the world. I have been there, so I can say. Good stuff, man. Congratulations. And thanks again for taking out time. So, without
Yeah,
further
definitely.
ado, let's start with this. Since you have studied from stats and data science, let's start with what it is, what's being taught, what are the key courses being taught in IIT. Let's start with what it is.
All right. So this branch was started like 6 years back now. So I'm the second batch that's graduating from this department. So it's relatively new. A lot of things are still being figured out, and the negative side of that is that like to a lot of companies and stuff, they're just figuring out we exist. So every year the placement cell does this extra effort to like put us out there. But I mean, so far it's been good. Like people are getting to the places they want to get to. It's a course that's offered by the statistics department in IIT Kanpur. So it is very heavy on maths. It deals with a lot of foundational probability, statistics theory, hypothesis testing, inference, like ML modeling, time series analysis, econometrics, those kinds of things. So, if you are like me and you're coming under the impression that it has a lot to do with AI, it does have a lot to do with AI in the sense that a lot of the maths that goes behind it, a lot of the foundational concepts that go into machine learning is what you will be focusing on. But it is a maths course. It's not a computationally heavy course. You'll spend 90% of your time doing maths and like 10% actually like coding and like figuring out what you're doing.
Got it. So if you have to distinctly compare it with, let's say, MTH, which is maths course in IIT, or in general, there is mathematics and computing in other IITs, and then there is CAC. So what are the finer differences in the course curriculum?
Right. So MT Maths and Scientific Computing and us, we are like sister programs offered by the same department almost. So a lot of the courses are similar, at least the foundational ones. So we both learn probability theory. We both learn analysis, real analysis. We both learn measure theory and things like that optionally. And so those foundational concepts courses are similar, but after that it's very divergent, right? So we focus completely on statistics. We focus on like whatever you need to like know how to deal with data basically, and how to like get insights from that. What do those insights mean? What do different variables mean? How to interpret models? That's where we go into maths. People learn like everything pure maths. So MTH is by and large a pure maths branch. You do have scientific computing courses, which is like the kind of computing that's relevant to industries and like matrix algebra, those kinds of things. But most of your time will be spent in stuff like topology, abstract algebra, number theory, and things like that, than anything that is directly applicable to like the industrial side of maths, if that makes sense.
Got it. And I think in some other IITs there is maths and computing, so there would be some bit of more computing there.
I think
Right.
broadly, what I would recommend students to do is look into, I mean, obviously, talking to students there would be the best way to do it. But if you can't do that, the best way is to look at which department is offering the program. So if the computer science department is offering the program, it will be computationally heavy. If the maths department is offering the program, it will be all maths, very similar to MPH. If it's a joint program offered by two, then it's probably like it'll have a good balance, like you mentioned.
Yeah, that makes sense. And how would you compare it with, let's say, CSE? I think they also study some bit of hardware and stuff, operating system, apart from
Right, right.
overall algorithms and maths and all, right?
Yeah, so they don't spend as much time learning this foundation stuff like we do. A lot of it comes in electives. So machine learning and all of these are things that you wouldn't directly learn. There's stuff you'll have to explore on your own in the CSE department. Their foundational stuff has more to do with like software and building operating systems, as you mentioned, compiler design, like just everything programming basically, like data structures, randomized algorithms, like advanced algorithms, different kinds of computational stuff. So they focus on efficiency, time efficiency of code, memory efficiency of code, how like in the back end of the laptop, how like at lower level design, how it actually works. They focus on that more. There is a lot of machine learning involved. That's the intersection between SDS and like us and them. That there are professors in both departments that work on machine learning related things, model design, probability, and all of those things. So that's similar in both, but the rest of it we go ahead into like further model inference and like data analysis, and they go into the algorithmic part of it.
Got it. Makes sense. And in terms of like the jobs or what kind of work you will do after graduation, how will you compare the differences? I know there is a lot of overlap, but
Right, right.
we can focus on the overlap and then the differences.
Okay. So overlap by and large, I would say if you're immediately getting a job after an undergraduate from IIT Kanpur, you would likely be looking at almost identical options. There's I think virtually no difference in the kind of options you'd consider in terms of jobs immediately after undergrad from both the departments. So typically people would be targeting like quantitative trading firms. We can talk more about that now or later on, like whatever is better. So people are looking at quantitative trading firms. People are looking at software companies. People are looking at banks, like various sorts of teams in banks. Then of course you have people who have decided that they don't want to like do anything related to science, and those would be the kind that go on to do like finance or like non-core opportunities like consulting and data analytics and things like that. Not data analytics, but like bank this strategy and those things.
Got it.
So those are broadly similar in both. The difference being that like we can discuss this further in placements, but the difference would be mostly be in like what companies are you more likely to get into directly after undergrad. And if you're talking about future scope, there's a lot of difference in terms of what you would get into if you stick to this branch with further degrees.
Got it. Makes sense. I think without further ado, we can discuss about the placements. And in terms of the placements, we can start with the overall average figure, which IIT Kanpur has, which is I think 20-25 lakhs. So you can tell us about
Right.
the average salaries in maths, stats, computer science, and then we will come to, let's say, the top companies, and then we will come to what share of people go to each types of companies.
Sure. Yeah, the average figure, I think you probably have it like right. I'm not done a lot of like this one and that, but yeah, 2025 is the probably the right figure. When it comes to SDS, electrical, and MTH, they actually do relate like broadly similar in terms of the kind of roles people end up landing in terms of package. So all of them have an average of probably around 30 to 35. If we are looking at computer science, they're like a leg above these three in terms of the package, the number strictly, and they're probably around like 40, 45 around. It's probably the average there. And yeah, so that's CSE. You want me to talk about the kind of companies, right? Or
Yeah, let's now move to the different types of companies and what are the top recruiters there, what kind of salaries they give.
okay. So in the four circuitous branches, the top, like I would say the top dogs at the moment that everyone kind of wants to get into would be the quant firms. So these are like, to give an idea of what quantitative trading is, it's basically so these are people who basically trade on the stock market. They trade stocks, they trade options, derivatives. They trade financial instruments, and they do it automatically, algorithmically, and they do it using various strategies in a manner that in a very short amount of time, like a millisecond, they are buying and selling a lot of like units of whatever they're trading in. And a lot of this involves snap decision making, or it requires implementing various models or algorithms that these guys have designed. And they have started
Okay.
hiring from IITs for a lot of this kind of work, either snap decisions or like coding up a lot of these fundamental things, either for like building the systems that do the trades or for the algorithms that like execute the trades. So these become the most lucrative packages because a lot of them offer norths of like 1 crore salaries.
Oh,
So
wow.
just to
So I think
just to
these are
give
the
an
companies responsible for those news headlines. IIT
yeah,
students getting
definitely.
a 1 crore or 2 crore packages.
Exactly. So you have companies like Jane Street, Citadel, and Tower who are based in like US or Amsterdam, and these are the kind of companies that hire across all the IITs. They probably hire like 2 or 3 people across all IITs, and that also not every year. So they are trying to like get the brightest mind of the country and like pay him like 2 crores and take 2 crores, 4 crores. Yeah, I think this is the headline you get, the 4.6 crores and things like that. So these are the companies that do that. Then you have some like other quant companies that pay you like 1 crore or 2 crore. These guys take like people every year from all the universities. Firms like Optiver and like Databricks. Databricks is not quant, but yeah. So firms like Optiver that take people to Amsterdam or like Mumbai or whatever and pay you about like 2 crores to do this kind of work. And these companies also have software opportunities. It's amazing. That it's a newer thing, yeah. So they're trying to like shift to Mumbai. I don't know if they're going to continue paying them the same amount like in the future as well. But right now the pay is the same because they're bringing people from Amsterdam to set up the office in Mumbai.
Got it. Makes sense. Sorry for interrupting. Yeah. Tell us about the other.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, so these are the companies that like. So again, I should probably add that these companies hire like software people and also software being systems. It's a little different from just what typical software designers, and you have this quant trading people. So these companies hire primarily by and large disproportionately from computer science, and they also hire like the top performers from MPH, SDS, and electrical as well. So those are the way these companies operate, and you have companies like SquarePoint, Quadeye, WorldQuant hiring like a lot more people, around like 10, 20 people every year. These are these pay around like 50 lakhs to 1 crore, and then you have other companies like you have banks like Goldman Sachs also have quantitative divisions. These guys pay more like 40, 50 lakhs. They do medium frequency trading, and these are like the big opportunities. The other very very lucrative opportunities are the software firms like Databricks, and these are like internationally based software companies that are hiring like Indian IIT students and taking them abroad. So these guys are paid accordingly, about 1 crore.
And how about other big tech companies like Google and Microsoft and Amazon?
Yeah. So after this is like the next set of good opportunities, which is like the software companies like Google, Amazon, Oracle, and Adobe. All of these companies, they probably pay around like a range of 30 to 50, depending on like the role in the company specifically, and obviously a lot of them like can go up to 80 also if they add a lot of stocks and ESOPs to like buff up that number. But just talking about like cash in hand, probably 30 to 50 is a realistic number for all like Google, Amazon, all of these, Microsoft. 20 to yeah, like 15 to like 40, 50, depending on which company you are in.
Got it.
And yeah, then after that, you get the other opportunities like data analytics. You have a lot of companies that are coming for AI research these days. And a lot of these companies also pay in like the 50 lakh range, or if they're like smaller startups around like 20, 30. And these are also like, depending on how much they pay, they're differentially competitive.
Got it. Makes sense. So if we divide the students in these courses into like quant and then big tech and let's say the banks and other courses, what share of students get into these companies?
Okay. So speaking of computer science, I think a lot of the quant placements happen through computer science itself. So IIT Kanpur has about 100 computer science students. I would say ballpark figure would be about like 15 or 20 of these people who are involved in various quantitative firms now at various levels. And the remaining 80 people, around half of them would be involved in like different types of softwares. Another 5-10 would be in these very, very lucrative opportunities like Databricks and all. And the other would be in like Google, Microsoft, Adobe, Oracle, all of these companies. Yeah, so I would say you have I've covered like 40 so far. Of the remaining 60, like 30 would be in software, and the remaining, I would say 20 or 30 would be in various non-core
Got
options
it.
like consulting and all of finance and all of these things. And you would also have about like I think 5-ish people who have probably like 5 to 10 people depending on the year who are considering higher studies as well from there.
Makes sense. And how
And
is this in comparison in stats or mathematics courses?
yeah. Stats and mathematics are very similar, I would say, in terms of how things turn out usually. So I think both of us are very small departments. Maths is like 50 people, we have like 30. So it's just speaking in terms of percentages. I think about 15 to 20% of people end up doing higher studies from these programs because like the kind of opportunities you'll end up getting after masters and like PhDs are usually a little bit more lucrative than what you get right now. And yeah, so apart from these 15% of people, I would say you have a couple of people from each of these, like a handful. I would put the number at like 4 or 5 who are in various quant firms from each of them, or maybe like 3 or 4 from each that are in like quant positions at like banks or these MFDs. You might have like 1 or 2 in like optimal level firms, but that doesn't happen every year. It's like a off chance. And
Got it.
usually you would have 3 or 4, you'd have like 2 or 3 consistently in some quant position, some level across each of these matches. But the remaining people, you go and again, like it would be probably, so if I speak specifically about SDS, you have like around 5, 6 people who will do higher studies, another 2 or 3 who are doing quant, and of the remaining like 20 people, you would have like about like 10 who have 5 or 10 who are in like various software firms, and another like 10, 15 who are in like various non-core opportunities in like banks or consulting and things like that. And it's a similar look for MTH as well.
Got it. Makes sense. I think you have given a good clarity around placements. So next we will come to the future scope, which is primarily around the future studies and also in terms of the job opportunities later down the path. And also you can cover the impact of AI in these domains. But I believe the impact of AI is about you guys making the AI so that it
Yeah,
impacts
it's us
other
getting,
branches.
it's us getting, yeah, and behind the gun and not not the ones in front of it.
Yeah, that makes
But
sense.
yeah,
So I think we can focus on the other parts.
yeah, sure. So at least speaking strictly about SDS, at least because of like AI, the AI's boom and all of that, a lot of like industries and companies have started having teams in place to build these kind of models. So this can be across various levels, like marketing companies or the R&D divisions of various software companies or supply chain companies. All of these people have some degree of like stats or modeling involved. All of these people hire PhDs or master's people at various levels to do this kind of work. And more standard options typically look like, so you have again the same quantitative trading firms. The guys who are actually designing the strategies are typically PhDs from either maths, physics, finance, computer science, or statistics. So those are the kind of places people go to. And you also have life sciences, which is probably where I'll end up, which is genetics, cancer research, big pharma drug discovery, things like that. That's the other place where people from a stats PhD or a master's would go to do either clinical trials and things like that, or like model development for various things. So that's where people eventually hope to end up. And as I have like mentioned multiple times, the route to this is like a master's or a PhD. And so typically, the future scope is if you're not going for a job immediately after undergrad, even if you work for a few years and then change your mind, you would typically apply for a master's or a PhD to one of like the premier institutes in the world, and then you would like we have had a good track record of people getting in. Like I think this year, almost everyone in like I think everyone except maybe I mean, so there were I think 5 or 6 of us who were seriously applying for higher studies, and all of us have gotten into places that we are like proud of. So and this is the case for I think MTH and CS as well. So the good
Can
thing
you
about
give
these
some
programs
examples?
is so just speaking about the last 2 years. So I am going to ETH Zurich, which is I think the 9th ranked program in the world for statistics, and I have friends who are doing PhDs in Duke, in Penn State, in Texas A&M, and I have in US as well. I have a friend who's going to do a master's in ICL, which is Imperial College London. Speaking about the other programs, I have in MTH there are people who are doing. Someone's doing a master's in mathematical finance from I think Princeton, or I'm forgetting the exact university, but I think it's Princeton. Then you have
Got it.
people. I have a senior who's doing a master's in computer science in Oxford who graduated from MTH last year, and I have a friend who's going to do a master's in CS in Stanford this year from the computer science department as well. So
Got it.
so people have gotten into pretty good places, and a lot of these people are either planning to get into like quants or banks eventually down the line, or like AI research in some form, the AI
Makes
startups and
sense.
all that.
Makes sense. Makes sense. This sounds like quite an awesome set of opportunities. I think next we will move on to the curriculum and the student life, how tough it is, how much time do you get to chill, and how is the fun, like you have, if you have any memories, the fun times.
So I would say the like just I don't want to like give too much gyan at this moment, but I'll just say if you take academics seriously in your first year of college, you can have a very good balance of both. a lot of times what happens is you mess up your academics in your first year and you go overboard and like trying to correct it, and that's why your student life starts
You
taking a
play
hit.
a
But
catch
from
up
the
game.
exactly, but in the first year itself, if you're taking your cats a little bit seriously and like the other things, yeah, do get involved in a lot of clubs as well. But in my experience, your student life in terms of extracurriculars really starts from your second year of college. So if you kind of use your first year to get an idea of how to balance time, how to budget time for your personal life, your academics and your extracurriculars, and get that habit going, you will have a pretty good student life across. Speaking specifically about my branch, like the courses can be extremely difficult to understand. A lot of them you have to spend a lot of time on, especially in MTH more than SDS, in terms of the amount of time you'll have to put in into understanding some of the courses. Like I used to have a friend who used to cry throughout fourth sem because he was also involved in a lot of clubs, but he had to spend multiple days trying to prepare for like one course, and it was very difficult to understand. And even then, he would sometimes not get a very good grade and like things like that. It is very difficult. It is very hard. A lot of effort has to be put in, and if you're not doing well, then you won't be able to enjoy the other things you're doing as well. But provided you're able to put in that effort and you're able to like do well, it's not like you don't have time for other things. Like taking my own example, I was in like 5, 6 different bodies in my second year, and in my third year, I was the head of the debating society, and like I have a grade point of 9.5. So and this is like I'm just giving my example, but
Like
I
you
have a
are a
lot of
genius, man. 1.5 and so many clubs and extracurriculars. But what
yeah,
about
I mean,
the average folks?
yeah, I mean, I'm not like a one-off, like special case or anything. I have a lot of friends who have done similarly or more impressive things, like more impressive grade points, a lot of extracurriculars that they have done and things like that. So my only point is it's not difficult to do. The average person is also involved with a lot of things. Maybe they have like a lower grade point or they're involved in like fewer places. But provided you don't get into this catch and game that we talked about earlier, you will like have a good student life. The good thing about at least MTH and SDS is that you don't have a lot of labs, you don't have a lot of physical time requirements from you. And even speaking about like attendance and things like that, MTH and SDS usually don't mandate attendance in a lot of courses and things like that. So provided you're able to like create a good schedule for you to keep up with your courses and like study, like if you're someone who needs more time, then study regularly. If you're someone who studies at the last minute, then like at least in those times, like know that that's what you need to focus on. Whatever kind of person you are, once if you're able to figure out a routine to keep your acats good, and you like keep that non-negotiable, like you don't let your extracurriculars interfere with that, as long as that's your first priority, you will have a very good student life in terms of the other things you do and like the other stuff you spend time in. So yeah, I would say the average kid in SDS is involved in like some place or the other. There's very few people who have done absolutely nothing. So
Got it.
either they're like either they're doing projects or coding as a hobby, or they're leading some club, or they're involved in some club, or like they did music or like writing or all sorts of stuff. So I'm by far not a outlier. I will caveat this by saying the average person who puts in decent amount of effort has a good student life going in like either scenario.
Got it. You just need to be disciplined. You get the flexibility. Like if I have to
Exactly.
TLDR, sum it up, but one needs to be disciplined. Then you can have a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
other things. Either you can
But
do.
but definitely if you're speaking in relative sense, if you're computer science, or if you're from economics, or if you're from one of those other branches, you will definitely have a lot easier time having a student life because the courses are a lot less demanding. They require a lot lesser time. The things you put in are lesser, so you can afford to get away with a lot more in some of the other branches. So here the bar to mess up is very high, so you have to put in effort. That's the difference, I would say.
Got it. Makes sense. Makes sense. If I have to, let's say, sum it up and say why one should choose SDS or maths and why one should not choose. Basically, if someone has to swipe left on this or swipe right, what would be those key points or differentiators people should keep in mind?
Okay, so if you have like an analytical mind, if you have enjoyed maths during your JEE, if you have like kind of enjoyed it to some degree, any degree, and if you like enjoy the idea of like proving things and like coming up with doing the maths behind models and all of those things, then and or like if you enjoy maths specifically, then MTS or SDS are like good options for you strictly because like the opportunities they lead you to are a lot. It's very relevant given the context of everything that's happening in the world right now. Like it's up to date because it's new. Also, the like syllabus is very up to date to match like what's kind of happening, and it's a good opportunity for you. So swipe right if you're someone who likes maths, who's able, or at the very least able to handle maths for like a long period of time without getting completely frustrated. And if you like these kind of opportunities, or if you're the kind of person who is not very sure about what to do, wants like a lot of opportunities on the table, and is also able to handle maths. Like the non-negotiable is you should be able to you should like maths to
Handle
some extent.
maths and put in number of hours. I think, in
Exactly,
short, these two
exactly,
things.
exactly. Provided you're able to do that and you want these opportunities, definitely go for it. If you are, that is why you should swipe right. Why I would swipe left is if you completely hate maths and not able to, not willing to put in that amount of effort into like studying like one thing for a long amount of time, like you will suffer a lot. You will struggle. You're like you will spend a lot of time studying stuff you don't like to study, and then you cannot really get away with it because some of the other branches, even if you don't like it, it's not that hard. So you can put in the effort, force yourself to do it, and like have a good grade point or whatever. But in MTS and STS, if you're not able to put in the effort, which you, if you're not interested, you won't be able to put in the effort. And if you're not able to put in the effort, you won't get good grades at all. And that will affect your student life, that will affect your career opportunities and all of that. So if I'm that kind of person, immediately swipe left. Like any, whatever, no matter what your career goals are, if you think you're not, if you won't be able to, you don't like, if you have a disdain for mathematics, do not at all. Immediately swipe left. And
Yeah, and anyway, I think if you don't like maths and you are not able to put in efforts, your grade points and other things will suffer. And even if you think of those high packages, you might not eventually get to those
exactly,
opportunities.
exactly, exactly. Because if you are coming here thinking about those like career opportunities, I already told you that especially in SDS, it's like those 2, 3 top performers who end up getting those packages. So it's not just about being good; it's about being the best in your branch, which is not something you can definitively take a bet on yourself on. So that should not be why you swipe right. You should swipe right because even the like average person who puts in effort gets into like a good place, like a good package, and they are all people who have put in effort. Like there's you cannot get those, as you said, you cannot get those packages if you don't. I would say if you're not, if you don't specifically have interest for these things, you just want the kind of broader opportunities that circuital gives you, CSE or electrical would be the way to go if you're not like interested in mathematics. Obviously, the caveat being if you have disdain for circuitry and stuff, then like the same logic applies in the other way. Like that is why
Generally,
I
you
took
don't like anything.
no circuitry in the sense hardware. I mean, like
Yeah, yeah.
the kind of stuff electrical people do. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. No, sounds good. And any like myths people have while joining this course, which you would like people get to know about it later, which you would like
Yeah.
future
So
aspirants to know.
yeah, so HDS, because of its core statistics and data science, people think it's very close to computer science. Like they think it's a specialization of computer science. They think that it's like computer science, but you're focusing more on like data analysis and those kind of things. But that's not the way it is at all. It's offered by the maths department. It's a whole different set of professors who have spent their whole life studying mathematics, studying statistics, and that is what they are going to teach you as well in this course. So it is definitely a maths heavy course. The myth is not that it's not related to MLAI. The myth is that it's completely computational in nature and that is all you'll be doing. It is not CS. It is a lot closer to maths than it is to CS. The opportunities and all are not a lie. They are still there. They're still very relevant. Your branch is, your degree is still related to that. You're still going to use what you learned. But what you're going to be doing in your day to day is maths. So that's the like number one takeaway from this video should be if you want to come to STS, be ready to do a lot of maths in your time.
Got it. Makes sense. Now I would like to move on to our like last section, basically guidance on the preference filling. So now since
Okay.
you know everything about all the branches for last 4 years, if you have to fill your
Right.
preferences again, how it should be. So first you can tell the future aspirants about how should one think about the preference filling both in terms of the choice of courses and the college.
Okay. Yeah, the first thing I will say is that there is definitely a difference between like circuital and non-circuital in terms of the kind of packages you get. I mean, that's very clear in the averages we discussed as well. But typically, if you're talking about packages, you have CSE, you have circuital, and then you have non-circuital, and there's a lot of interchanges that keeps happening. So 1 year is good for this, 1 year is good for that, depending on the market, depending on the kind of students, and it's very difficult to predict. So I would say the first and foremost criteria you should have in mind is like should be about what you are interested in. That should be a non-negotiable. So never end up in a place that you don't have some amount of interest in, because then you won't be able to perform. You won't be able to take interest in what you're doing. And 4 years is a very, very, very long amount of time. If you don't have the smallest amount of interest in what you're doing, you will not enjoy your college life and you will not enjoy what you are doing. And that means all the like packages and all these big, big things you thought about before coming, you ultimately aren't able to achieve. So the number one thing I would say is if you're inside circuital or you're inside non-circuital and you're trying to pick a preference optimizing for package, don't spend a lot more effort thinking about what kinds of things you're going to be interested in. And Yeah, so that is like the broader advice that I would like to give. The other thing I would say is don't be afraid to have a passion. Don't be afraid to be interested. Like I've been in like your shoes. I understand that everyone has the same order in mind. Everyone's telling you you're an idiot if you don't fill the same order. I know a lot of very talented, very great people who have like pursued their passions. I have had like juniors who come to college and they go against the grain in this order and they go to like a branch they're interested in. Like I have a junior who's to biosciences from a department that someone would typically place above in the order just because he really had a passion for biosciences. I have had like a friend in college who could have like taken either CSE in like Bhubaneswar or something, or he could have joined like electrical or SDS in one of these other universities, but he decided to take like specifically BS Maths and IIT Bombay, which is a very good degree. It still has a lot of these opportunities, but he followed his like passion of pursuing mathematics. So, and a lot of people do that. They take physics in IIT Bombay instead of circuitry, and they still go on to have good things. So, if you're very, very passionate about something and you're confident that that passion won't waver, don't be afraid to chase it. But if you're exploring as like 95% of people will be, you're not, either you have some idea of what to do, but you're not sure or anything of that sort, give a lot of attention to the kind of opportunities, the diversity of opportunities, all of that. And give first and foremost priority to what you have some interest in doing. Never end up in a place that you absolutely don't want to end up in.
Yeah, even if you are
So,
not sure, then I think you will still have to study it for 4 years. And even the eventual placements is linked to your performance academically. So if you don't like it, the
right.
likelihood of you doing great in this will anyway go down.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think in terms of opening, closing, people aren't wrong to prefer circuital or non-circuital. There's definitely a very significant difference in terms of the kind of companies that even allow you to give the interviews. But once you're done with that and you're like fine tuning your options, don't think about placements is what I would say. Unless it's like a specific company that you're thinking in, like Tesla only hires a mechanical, or like if you're really interested in being a mechanical engineer, then this JoSAA shouldn't be a question of ranks for you anyways.
Yeah. And for clarity of others, the circuital branches, I don't know whether we have mentioned it, CSE, mathematics, STS, and electrical in terms of
Yeah.
IIT Kanpur. And in other IITs, I think maybe electronics and communication and similar branches over there.
Yeah, DFAI.
Yeah. No, that absolutely makes sense. How would someone should deal with the trade-off? You were mentioning there was someone who was getting, let's say, CSN or tier 2 IIT, or maybe they might get in BITS or let's say NITs, versus someone getting, if obviously if they get a circuital branch here, let's say SDS and all, it makes sense. But non-circuital branches in one of the top 4, 5, 6 IITs, then how they should think about it?
Okay, so I would basically say this, like if you're very interested that like you just want to end up in like software or something of that sort, you could consider taking computer science in one of those IITs, because the main difference is that in between institutes is that the kind of companies that even show up to like the placements, like let alone what branches they open for and all, whether they even put their foot in the door. And a lot of the like big people that like the most lucrative opportunities that I described do not come to NITs or BITS and a lot of these places. Your Amazon, Google, Oracle, these show up to all of them. So if that's where you want to end up, then taking CSE in NIT and BITS might be okay, because you will, if you do well in your acats, you are the most preferred candidate in that university, and that they're more likely to pick you over other people than like in an IIT if you're vying for that same position. But if you're aiming for these lucrative opportunities, if you're aiming for research, if you're aiming for like studies and all of these things, the kind of exposure you get in an IIT is a lot heavy, like wider, because typically the professors are more distinguished. The kind of opportunities you'll end up getting are more, and then if you're specifically higher studies, universities will recognize an IIT's name more than they do BITS and NIT. So if that's where you want to end up, your university name makes a huge difference in like a tier 1 IIT as compared to these other places. And in terms of getting even the opportunity to interview at like an October or an like database, if you're someone who at least wants the opportunity to like try an interview for them, even if you don't actually end up getting into them, then you should definitely prefer a first IIT, because you would not even have that opportunity in a lot of these other places.
Got it. I think it's in summary, it's about access to more amount of opportunity and also the brand playing in the placement. This is on the short term view. In long term, I think the exposure you get, the brand name you carry, and also some bit of the alum network that gives you an edge if you choose a
Yep,
better like brand or tier
yep,
1
yep,
college.
definitely. Yep,
Makes
for
sense.
sure.
Now, I think in the end, we will do a small mock preference filling. If we have to do it all over again after knowing everything, then how would you fill the preferences? We will keep restricted to the IIT Kanpur branches because you would know about them a lot better.
Yep.
What we will do is there is a overall ranking. Before that, we will do some individual factor-based ranking so that students who kind of value a certain parameter more can accordingly take the call. And to make it easy, obviously, it's tough to rank 15, 20 branches. So we have divided into four different brackets, four quartiles, and we will try to put them into them. And within that, if there are any nuances, okay, someone is better than other within the same quartile, you can let us know. So
Sure, sure.
let's start with placements. If we consider the IIT Kanpur branches, I think for the benefit of viewers, we can tell what the branches are. I think it's computer science, electrical, your stats and data sciences, mathematics, and in terms of non-circuital, there is chemistry, BS physics, BS earth sciences, then chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, uh, aerospace and material sciences. And then there is BUSPE, which is biological sciences and bioengineering. Is there anything I missed out or
Did you mention economics?
I forgot the economics? Yeah. There is BS economics. Cool. So let's begin. Let's start with the core thing, placements. How would you rank these branches?
Yeah. Okay. Again, I'll just give a quick disclaimer and say that like my expertise is in these four. Like the other branches, I have a broader idea based on like what friends have been saying, but it's like hearsay and it's not like very. It's
Yeah,
like
it's
vibes to
completely
another.
opinion based, and also each year things might change here
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
bit between at least the circuital and non-circuital branches. But yeah, let's go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Okay, so for placements in the first category, first quarter, I would put CSE, electrical, MTH, and SDS. Caveat being that CSE is like definitely a step above because there's so most companies that like most of these top companies do open for all of them, but in their hiring they typically show a preference for computer science as compared to the other three. So that is the caveat here. After that, in quartile two, I would place mechanical, aerospace, civil, and chemical. This is mostly because so now once we're in like so non-circle, these are companies that these are branches that have guaranteed companies like ITC or like industrial management or core companies that keep coming up every year. If we go after that, we have material sciences, BUSPE, and economics. The reason I place economics here and not a little higher up is because sometimes the fact that it's a BS degree unfortunately carries like some kind of stigma for certain companies. Like some companies only open for BT. This doesn't really happen with the circuital branches a lot. Like there are some that exclude MTH, SDS just because they are like BS, but like 90% of the companies do not care about that for circuital. But for non-circuital, for some reason, there are companies that do look at the BS stack, but because it's economics, like some they do have some more opportunities because they have like finance and stuff. And in the last quarter, I would place physics, chemistry, and earth sciences because like again, a lot of these are branches they are BS. They don't have a lot of industrial opportunities straight out of undergrad, and the stigma is carried a little bit. So that's the ordering I would have for placements.
Got it. Next is around the future scope or future studies. How would you place them?
Okay. So future scope again, like and first preference I would place CSE electrical, MTH, and SDS. The reason why I place these here is there are other branches that also have like great opportunities post year. Like there's very good programs out there that you could pursue higher studies and stuff in. But by and large, especially in today's day and age with the AI stuff that's happening, these four have like a huge benefit in terms of the kind of opportunities you might have after you graduate, like from higher
Makes
studies and all
sense.
of those. The next level we would have is mechanical, chemical, BUSBE, and eco. I'm doing this. I place them here because they have very lucrative industrial opportunities in addition to academia. Like the one thing all these branches will have in common is if you do well enough in them, you can become a professor in an esteemed institute and you can have a good career. But what sets apart these four are that there's also lucrative industrial opportunities if you like do well in your
Got it.
postgrad in either of these. In your third, I would place physics, MSc, material sciences, and chemical. They also have industrial opportunities, just probably to a lesser amount because again, physics and chemical, you probably have a lot more like lab-based research and like there's probably lesser industrial research out for that. And for material sciences is like so this is just like I have seen more people in the tier two getting into like who pursue higher studies out of this desire for good industrial opportunities than I've seen people in the third category. So typically people who pursue higher studies in the third category are people who end up wanting to go into academia. And so just like going off of that, the fourth quartile would have earth science and civil because for the same reason, I've typically only seen people take these higher studies for like academia purposes. Which again, like all of these branches, if you do well in them, you would have good career opportunities in academia
Got it.
specifically. So my distinguishing factor is your industrial opportunities.
Got it. And also the type of opportunities.
Exactly.
You covered mechanical and aerospace and all, right? It's in tier 2, I believe.
Tier 2, yes.
Yeah, got it. And okay, next, let's consider the student life.
Okay, student life at the highest, I would place economics, Busbay, and earth sciences. I have seen these people enjoy life the most, typically because it's not. I mean, at least from my experience talking to them and things like that, they don't have a. It's it's the most lightest branches in terms of your academic load. You don't have to put in as much effort, and you don't have to put in as much time to like do well in these branches. So that means you have a lot of time left to pursue other interests, extracurriculars, your personal life, your like whatever you want to do with your free time, your friends, and whatever. So that's why I have them in first. In second, I'm placing computer science, material sciences, chemical, and I would place SGS as well. SGS, my nuances, I would put at the lowest in this category, like compared to these other three, because again, like we spoke in the start, there's obviously a lot of hardships involved in like studying. And the main reason I place them here is because like I think it's like people in SGS have a better student life than like the other departments that I will place in the third quartile basically. But I do think it's lower than these other three because again they have little lesser academics. For example, computer science people can typically graduate in 7 semesters. If you take a few extra courses, you can graduate in 7 semesters and you're just free for a whole semester after that. So because of things like that, you typically have a lot of free time in these three, provided you do well. The main reason I place computer science in second and not first is because it's like extremely high pressure, it's very competitive, and the lucrative opportunities are for the top performers. So even though the academic load is low, there's a lot of pressure to be at the top performer. Because in SGS, for example, 9.5 is like the highest we have, but in MTH, it's like 9.3 is the highest you have. In CSE, it's always a 10. There's a lot of people at 9.9, there's a lot of people at 9.8, and that makes the pressure very high to perform, even though the academics are lighter. So that's the caveat here. And so, yeah, I would place these four branches here. Your third quartile, you would have electrical, civil, BS Chem, BS5, and MTH. MTH is at the lowest end of this spectrum here. I think, I think MTH definitely takes the most load in terms of time here. Electrical is only here because they have one of the highest credit loads in our entire campus. Like they have one of the highest number of courses to do, and they also have labs, and everyone has labs because you have to go out in the hot sun and sit in the lab for like 3 hours a day, multiple days a week. So that is why electrical is in third and not second. And the other ones are also here because like they are just like lower in terms of amount of like they do have some amount of tough courses and things like that, but not as much as the ones I've placed below. And last I've placed mechanical and aerospace because again they have the highest number of labs. They have the most horror stories I've heard in terms of like courses where a lot of people fail and stuff like that typically come from mech and aero as well. So that's the reason why I have them here. Again, here I'm talking about the student life of a person who gives a lot of time to academics. If you don't give any time to academics, you can have a very good student
If
life.
you want to chill, you can chill anywhere. Like
Exactly.
for sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And if we come to the overall rankings, how would you place them?
Yeah. So overall ranking, this is like me placing the highest priority to future scope and like placements over your student life because that's just like the way I operate. I would place overall MTH, SDS, computer science, and electrical as the highest. Computer science being a peg above the other three. Other three I would place at the same level. The second quarter I would have economics, busway, mechanical, and aerospace. This is with respect to student life as well here because again, at least in the non-circuital level, I would say how well you're able to do your acats and how much time you get to pursue projects and stuff would be more in these. And typically, I've also seen the most people take interest in projects and like experience and stuff like that in these four departments within the non-circuital branches. So at second quartile, I would place economics, busway, mechanical, and aerospace. In third, I would have chemical, material sciences, and civil engineering. And at the last quartile, I would have physics, earth science, and PS chemistry. Like this is pure, mostly going off of how these fare in placements.
Got it. Makes sense, yeah. That's a good amount of insights you have given, and directionally, at least the future aspirants can know where their heart lies. So thanks for that. Before finishing this up, any parting thoughts you have for the future aspirants?
Parting thoughts would just be that it's a very stressful period, but the good thing is they usually give a lot of time to think about things. So I would say utilize this time well, talk to as many people as you can, and like I would say spend a lot of time thinking about what you really want to do and what kinds of things you could take interest in, so that regardless of where you end up, you don't make the mistake of ending up somewhere you don't want to be. And the last thing I will say is And this is actually an advice my dad gave to me like when I was stressing out about placements. He basically, so I had like five options that I was thinking of and I didn't know what to go to. And he basically said, Aditya, all of these are like good options. All of these are options you're interested in. Can you look at me and tell me you're happy if you end up in any of these five? And I said yes. And he said, then stop thinking this is your order. And that makes a lot of sense because 10 different things can happen once you get into your program. As long as you know that your top five or six preferences where like you're most likely to end up, as long as you're happy about like the idea of you being there excites you to some extent, that's a good order. So don't overthink it, don't stress too much, don't play around too much with it. Think about what you're interested in, come up with one good order, and if you can sleep well at night, that's your order.
Yeah, makes sense. Like, don't focus on just blindly the opening and closing ranks. Focus
Yeah.
on what you like. And obviously, there is a nuance of circuitry and non circuitry, but within those, follow your passion as much as possible.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah, makes sense. That's a lot of insights. And I think it would be really helpful for the students. And thank you for doing this. Thanks a lot for coming and wish you all the very best for your further studies and have fun in Switzerland. And yeah, and thanks everyone for joining in. Do share it with the students or parents who need this. And please comment if you need some other insights or you want me to cover some other topic. And follow me on Instagram and YouTube for the more such videos. Thank you. Thanks a lot.